Because of the updates Ford has made to its 5 and 7-seat C-Max MPVs, a previous generation used model becomes an even more attractive buy. The updated C-Max, not the one shown on screen, boasts a more chiselled front end and a more user-friendly interior. The question is, should you buy a new and updated C-Max, or would a previous generation used model be a better buy? And is it even worth buying a C-Max in the first place? Here in the front of the Ford, it feels very familiar indeed. The dashboard feels very well built and built to last. There's a few soft touch materials around the dashboard, but the cabin ultimately feels very driver focused. The steering wheel feels very chunky and sporty, which feels good. The interior houses some family-friendly features, such as a bus driver's mirror to keep an eye on the children. Picnic tables also come as standard. Now, in terms of spec, I wouldn't go for the entry-level model because, well, it's not very well equipped, and the interior build quality isn't as good as on the higher models. So unless you have to, I would stay away from the entry-level model. What I would recommend, though, is the Z-Tech model. Now, for most people, the Z-Tech is exactly what you need for the middle-of-the-road price. Now, for space and practicality for backseat passengers, the C-Max is sort of middle of the class. It's not too bad, it's not the worst, but then again, it's not the best. I've got alright headroom in here. However, for legroom, the C-Max is more bottom of the class. Two 6-foot passengers cannot sit behind each other because, well, I'm almost 6 foot, and if I was, I'd be out of legroom here. Once again, boot space in the C-Max is only really middle of the class, but it's still good. Although not the biggest in the class, the C-Max's boot can still swallow up anything from buggies to shopping for Mazda. If you want to fold down the seats, it takes place from in the back. Basically, you lift that up and down comes the seat. But the C-Max also has another trick up its sleeve. If you go down here and fiddle around the handle, the seats tumble forward. You don't need me to tell you that with these seats folded down and tumbled forward, you can get plenty of furniture from IKEA in this boot. If you're a growing family and you're going to be carrying children and luggage around, then I would recommend for the C-Max the 1.6 diesel engine. That is if you want to go for a diesel, but if you're more thinking I want a petrol, then the 1.1 EcoBoost would be fine for petrol. Well, it's the best petrol engine. It might struggle when going up hills or anything like that, or even fully loaded. The EcoBoost might struggle. Another positive for any growing families is the amount of storage in the C-Max. There's clever little places where you can store bits and bobs, such as cup holders and little trays underneath the driver's seat. There's also a removable shelf in the glove box. How does it drive? Well, thank God it drives well, because this is what's making the C-Max sell. This C-Max and the Mazda 5 are the only MPVs that are fun to drive. Now, the C-Max isn't as fun to drive as a Ford Fiesta is, but it's with that EcoBoost engine or even that 1.6 diesel, this is a fun car to drive, and that is the C-Max's big selling point. If you're looking for a used C-Max, but you want a car that's fun to drive while being able to carry your family in some comfort, then the C-Max is the one to go for. So, is there anything wrong with the C-Max as a used buy? Well, the interior is starting to show its age. I mean, as I said, it's got great build quality, everything's very accessible. The real problem is the lack of an infotainment system. In the age of tablet screens and infotainment systems with everything built into one touchscreen, these buttons are becoming a bit old-fashioned, and a tiny little screen up there is just a no-go these days. The styling. I mean, some may say it looks quite sporty, which might be a good thing, but I actually find it quite awkward looking, and some angles just look a bit silly, I think. So if you're looking for something maybe a bit more curvaceous or a bit more stylish, then I will go and look for a used Citroen C4 Picasso. So if you're looking for a used 5-seat MPV that's fun to drive and pretty good in most areas, then the C-Max is well worth considering.